Saf, hey, why everything's changing so fast? Everything's changing so fast. Hi,
Uh,
everybody. Hi, Saf from New Jersey.
hello,
I'm in New Jersey. You're
hello.
in Israel. Hey, man.
Yes,
Hi,
hello.
everybody. Hi, everybody from around the world. Please say hi to us. Tell us where you are from. We are very happy to be here. We're in the midst of the great transition.
The
We
great
show,
transition.
yeah, we
Yes.
start Asaf. Asaf got in touch with me a few months ago, said it's the perfect opportunity now to speak to everybody about the things we're always talking about the things we're learning. Everyone's in quarantine. People are ready to start to listen to these kind of things. And we started the quarantine while we were in quarantine. And now we see clearly what's happening. The whole world is going through a transition. The end of our kind of material development has come. We reached peak peak ego. We reached peak, whatever it is, peak consumption, peak development as
Yeah.
people, traveling all over the world, buying things, interconnecting the supply chains between the East and the West and the North and the South, and everything is mixed. And now we're ready to transition to humanity's next move. Nothing like this has ever happened in
Ooh.
the history of humanity, where the entire planet is transitioning into, um, dare I say, spiritual.
Ooh.
Okay, I won't say. I won't say.
Okay.
But we're going to use as pragmatic a language as possible. But we are transitioning. It's clear. It's clear that the politicians and the leaders are somewhat confused. It's causing a lot of confusion in the people. People are also confused. Are we supposed to wear masks? We're not supposed to wear masks. Are they? Is it some? They want to put microchips in me with the vaccine, or the vaccine's going to help me. My business is coming back. It's not coming back. Where am I going to be able to pay my
Hmm.
rent? So much. So many contradicting stories, so much even violence eruptions, and then nature comes, and then there's different things happening with this. It's flooding over here, and it's burning over here, and there's food shortages over here, and uh, so many changes happening. And
Hmm.
here we are together. We're going to speak exactly to what's happening. What is the picture? When a baby is born, even after the baby's born, the baby doesn't know when it's Monday and when it's Tuesday. The baby's just looking like he's on some psychedelic trip or something. Just, there's no form to his life.
The baby trip.
There's no baby trip. There's no, I think we talked about that NASA study that like 97% of kids are geniuses. And maybe one of our guests told us about it. And like 4% of adults are geniuses, because what happens is at the beginning, when
Yeah.
we feel things, we perceive all these things, and then the more we go through life, the more into a box. How does this benefit me? What can I get out of this? I meet somebody, it's like, can I gain something from them? If not, I don't need them. And everything becomes smaller and smaller boxes. We don't perceive the world. So baby doesn't perceive yesterday, doesn't perceive tomorrow. Baby's just going through life. And that's what we're, even kind of less than a baby, meaning humanity today. We don't understand what all of these things are that are happening around us. So that's what we're doing here in the great transition in our show, is talking about what is happening, so we can be more than a baby. We can live into this world. We can enjoy life together, all of humanity, every color, every nationality, whoever you are. We can all enjoy life together. That's how it's intended.
So
And
you're
that's what we're here
saying
to
you're
discuss.
saying, Seth, that the great transition is great. It's not just
It's really great.
great. It's not just great. It's also really great. But
It's
the
really great,
problem,
and it's great.
yeah, but the problem is that in order to discover that it's great, first we have to sort of discover that it's great. We have to fear its greatness to an extent, because
Say that
every,
again.
we kind of have to fear its greatness, because anything
Fear its
that's,
greatness.
yeah, because anything that's really great, even if you go, let's say you want to do something really great in life,
Jump out of an airplane, or
yeah, like, or even just whatever, be a musician, become
okay.
really good at what you do. It means that you're taking on a challenge. It means that you're going out of your comfort zone. It means
And
that
it's
you're going,
terrifying the first time you get in front of an audience, or the 100th time even.
there you go. And but you still go for it because you realize it's great. So you fear the greatness, and yet the greatness is what attracts you. So that is kind of sort of what we're going through right now as a global society. We're going to something great, but it is so greater than what we are used to, than what we are familiar with, that it's also a bit scary, um,
Terrifying.
weird, strange, uncertain. Creates this anxiousness, anxiety. Uh, Check out a few headlines, Seth. There are a lot of evidence piling up. Wait, I want to show you this. Let me just make sure that you can see. Okay, so there's a lot of evidence piling up right now that is talking about how COVID ushered in an era of anxiety, and so there you go. For even from the end of March, like the beginning of April, the American Psychiatric Association did a national poll in America. 40% of the people were anxious about either dying or becoming seriously ill due to COVID-19. Now, that was in April, and this situation is developing, and we're seeing that more and more cases are now, the world is kind of bracing itself towards the next, or the second wave as they call it now in the news. Australia is now into a second lockdown, a bunch of other countries in Europe, in Israel. Here the situation is really weird because the first wave was sort of handled very well, and now all of a sudden there is a really gigantic uh, leap in the number of cases every day. And the leaders don't know exactly what to do, between debating between reopening the economy, reshutting down the economies again, and on the other hand, that will paralyze the country.
You can understand. You can understand the anxiety. On the one hand, we see a news story that there's a big push by the president here to make sure all the schools open in September.
Yeah,
And then the other news stories are that I see two of me,
yeah, don't
and
worry
then the
about that.
others.
You're good.
Okay, then
We,
the
we are so good
okay,
we
then
can see two of you.
there's the great, and then there's the great. I mean, um, so on the one hand, uh, there's a push to get the schools open. That's probably has to do with the economy, because if all the kids are home, the parents have an issue; they can't work.
Mhm.
And then on the other side, we see the most deaths in Florida.
Right.
Yesterday, the most daily death, the most COVID deaths in a day yesterday, and cases are going up. So, and then you have at the same time um, the death rate actually is very, very, very low.
Yeah, what is it,
Like
like point
very, very, like
four
less than
point
a
point
percent, I think.
point three point three
Yeah.
percent
So
something like that.
what the heck is going on? Nobody's dying from this, but yet the entire world is
Well,
like in
let's not
chaos.
say,
And
let's be fair and
no,
not say
okay.
nobody's dying, but
So you're
compared
right.
to other
Compared to
pandemics,
traffic,
yeah,
to pre okay, if we took all the deaths from traffic and everything else that happened, if we didn't shut down, it may be more. I don't know. I didn't do the analysis, but I mean, people are not dying from traffic deaths. People are not dying from all these other things that they were dying from before.
yeah,
Um, so what is this anxiety? It's very clear that to us that the virus is not just affecting us physically. It's
right.
affecting our thoughts, it's affecting our emotions, it's affecting, I mean, you sent me an article this week about how literally it's measurably affecting people's brains.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not talking about that even.
this is weird, and still, no one really understands it yet, but there's all sorts of evidence suggesting that, meaning there's actual findings. People who get COVID and they don't get a cough or a sneezing or even a respiratory thing or any kind of flu-like symptoms or other COVID symptoms that we thought we understood, but instead they get all kinds of mental health issues, psychosis of all
Don't scare
sorts,
everybody.
um, neurological situations, a loss of senses sometimes, sense of smell mostly, distortions in vision, things like that, and more mentally, more things that have to do with like anxiety again. Weird, weird. It's a weird situation. We
So
don't really know
physically,
how it affects us. Yeah,
all right, so physically, emotionally, psychologically, and it's also we're discovering, science is discovering, that uh, the virus is not just spread from droplets. It's in the air. It's everywhere. And
This is also in one of those new things. What I read is that there's about 240 scientists now that have gathered evidence from different places that is basically saying that there's probably airborne transmission that's going on in some to some extent, in some capacity, that we're not exactly understanding. Yeah.
okay, but
Yeah.
there's good news, everyone.
Wait. Before the good news.
Before the good news. Okay.
No, but it's sure. Let me show you a couple
We're
more things. Let me show
okay,
you a couple
show
more
us.
things. First of all, yeah. So here's another research. That poll I showed before was like from April, right, from the end of March. This one was published like 2 days ago, and again, over 50% expressed suffering from anxiety and psychological distress regarding the COVID pandemic. Also interesting, participants spent several hours per day thinking about COVID. Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
They studied me, I
Psychological
guess.
and psychological and social determinants showed stronger associations with anxiety regarding COVID than experiences with the disease. So, back to what we were talking about, this is saying we are not just in some cases, many cases apparently, we have more anxiety about the disease, and there's this psychological influence that radiates and influences and travels through the human family more than even the biological influences of the virus. And also when you go into specific groups of people, uh, then there's also a rise in anxiety and stress in specific groups of people, like doctors and nurses themselves, or new moms. You can understand that, right? Like
Yeah.
think about a new mom getting new baby into the world in a COVID time. By the way, I'm living this reality with a 3 month old
Yeah,
baby
your baby was born during this.
into the it's a COVID baby. Yeah, if you can, COVID era baby, let's say. Even fishermen, check this out. COVID-19 has worsened cases of anxiety, depression amongst fishing communities. So basically,
How
across
about
the
bow
board,
hunting communities?
probably, probably. But look, here's let's talk about how to cope with this. Okay, we wanna talk about the great transition being a great one, not just a great one, right? So how do we get there? The thing is that people across the board are anxious about whatever it is, their jobs, their economies, their
Their
health, of
family,
course, their families, their relatives, their kids. What am I going to do about schools, like you said,
food,
food?
violence, robbery,
Exactly.
crime.
Now, that fear is essentially about one thing, and that is uncertainty. We
Yeah.
are uncertain about where this is going, and is this going to end, and where is this leading us? What exactly is happening? We don't exactly know. And uncertainty, I think, is a very unique and specific kind of fear, because it paralyzes action. Because when you're uncertain what to do, you don't do anything. You just don't know what to do. And you can see that even through the words of the politicians who try to make it so as if they know what to do, it's very easy to discern that they really don't. And even among health experts and economists and so on. But while uncertainty paralyzes action, it fuels thinking, just like in that research and just like what we were talking about.
Hmm.
So,
Nice
so,
one.
so I don't exactly know what to do, but I keep thinking about it. What am I going to do about it? What is happening? We are in a process of global scrutiny, of global analysis, of collective thinking
Amazing.
about what's
We've been
happening.
given an opportunity to think. Who
There
are
you
we?
go.
What are we? What's happening?
and
Wow.
and
Nice one.
that so now when you put in that the death rate thing, and you think about it, yeah, it really doesn't kill that many people, but it causes such an uncertainty that fuels thinking and contemplation in the human family never seen before. If you go back to the sources of Kabbalah, the only time the last time humanity was so globally uh, together or condensed was when they were most of human civilization was in a single place. That was 4,000 years ago. Since then, we scattered across the globe and went into engaging in our different things and created our whole modern world and so on and so forth. And now, 4,000 years later, for the first time after that that ancient time in ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Babylon, only now again we are faced with a reality where all of humanity is globally facing something and thinking together, even if we don't realize it. And uncertainty is also, um, maybe this will sound weird, but it's a kind of a virus, isn't it? I mean, uncertainty is a very infectious thing. Um, I'm gonna say something that will sound weird
Do it.
to people who are not familiar with the wisdom of Kabbalah, and it may sound a little mystical. So help me explain that. But we know that all of nature is connected, and all levels of nature are intertwined and inter influencing each other. And so when the human and also the human level has a specific quality of influence on the whole system. We influence all the other systems the most. And so if the global human family is in a state of global uncertainty, that shakes not just ourselves and each other, that shakes the whole system. So we shake the whole system of still vegetative animate of the planet right now with our uncertainty. And that produces a certain kind of dynamic in nature that we don't really understand. But the system itself is a single interconnected system, and it's always dynamically moving like a living organism, moving towards a certain balance, and we are shaking in that whole situation. You want to maybe try to say
Sure,
this
I've got
in other
about a
words?
million things to say. Yeah, a million things to say on that, and I'm not sure how to explain that what happens on the human level affects, meaning when there's harmony on the human level, there will see harmony on the ecological levels, even in weather, fires, floods, because we're getting into something that people may feel verges on some kind of mysticism, and we want to stay away from that. We are not talking about religion. We're not talking about mysticism. We're talking about integral laws of nature, and we want to stay true to that. That's we want to keep our feet on the ground. And what we if only everybody would try and love each other for a week, and all
Hmm.
of a sudden everything in the world would calm down, then we would have some empirical evidence to, you know, unfortunately, I don't think
Oh,
that's,
okay,
we
okay.
only have
Let's
50 viewers on Facebook right now, so we still have a couple billion to go, but it doesn't have to come from
about
us.
about uh, another 50 on YouTube as well. So um, hello YouTube and Facebook. We're all here with you. Um, and soon we're also gonna probably do a global check and see how many people from how many places are connected. We love to do that. But okay, Seth, let's go back to okay before we jump to love. Love is a little bit, could sound far fetched from where we are right now. But we're uncertain, we're insecure, we're anxious. So the antivirus that people need today, everyone's talking about a vaccine. Is there going to be a vaccine? Are we going to find one? Is it going to happen fast? How much is going to happen? Even if we find the formula, how long will it happen until we actually mass produce it and mass distribute it? That's a whole other consideration besides just finding a vaccine. But really, the antivirus that we need now and that we can actually produce, we'll talk about that later, but the antivirus we need now, I think, is a sense of certainty, a sense of security, a sense of confidence. We need to somehow spread a sense of understanding and reassurance about what is going on, so we can start balancing ourselves in this process. You know,
The,
again, yeah, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Okay, again, this example just keeps coming up to my mind because it was so, to me, it was such an emotional thing. My son, who's 8 years old, when he was 4, we moved to an objectively better place. Like the previous our previous home was objectively crappier. Okay, it's much better now. He has his own room. We have a backyard. It's nicer. Okay, but for him, it wasn't the focus at all. I remember it so vividly, so emotionally, because you can see it on a child's face and actions and everything. He was trembling. Even he was. Why? Because he wasn't used to anything outside the old house. Of course, we went outside and everything, but he wasn't used to living in a new place. And 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 for a long time, it took him a long time to become. Only when he became familiar with the new place, then he became comfortable and he began to understand what he can do there, what he can actually do in this new world, this new house that he's in. And this is kind of what's happening to us. Our world is changing in front of our eyes, and that's weird. It's just weird. We got to put on masks. Do we not? Will it influence my job? If we have to shut down the economies, for how long? What does that mean? Will the government start handing out money now? What does this mean about the future of our jobs? Schools? Are we going to send the kids to school? Yes, no. My wife and I are debating. The both kids are now not in their. The 5-year-old is not in her kindergarten, and the 8-year-old is not in his school. For the rest of the year, we made that decision, like when the shutdown happened, the lockdown happened, and we really don't know whether to send them to school next year, which is in a few months. We don't have no idea what's going to happen. Businesses, the politicians, and there's also this seemingly inescapable division that is just very worrisome. And so all these conditions are just piling up, and
Asaf,
yeah.
the world we left was horrible. The
that's that's the
as the
paradox, isn't it? Yeah.
as the
The irony.
comedian as the American comedian George Carlin said, he did an amazing, a really funny skit on politicians.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, they came from American families in American towns, went educated in the best American schools,
Uh-huh.
and they're the biggest crooks out there. Now, I'm not putting down America at all. I'm not putting down anything. What I'm saying is the system that we have set up
Mm-hmm.
leads to businesses that exploit the earth, leaders that are filled with hatred
Mm-hmm.
and constantly fighting each other and separating people. We end up with a world where our kids come out of, they're taught competition. You're not allowed to help anybody on a test.
Yeah.
You're against you're against, you have to keep everything private so that when you get out into the world, you're not supposed to, you're trained your whole life
To
not
to
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 cooperate.
be
Now, I mean,
competitive, and
kindergarten you're taught to share,
and and
but after that,
that the world is a place where you need to compete for your own survival, and
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 there's
and
finite resources, and if I can legally find a way to steal, if it's within the boundaries of the law, that I can avoid the taxes, or I can
Mhm.
avoid, if I'm not, there's, okay, you're not supposed to pollute, but if I can buy your carbon credits, then I can continue to pollute and still tell the world that I'm a zero, have a zero carbon
Yeah.
footprint, even though I'm
Yeah.
polluting because I bought your carbon credits. And so on paper, it looks
Hmm.
one way. And the whole system that we left behind, that we're leaving behind, is horrible. It's totally horrible.
And
You're
yet,
working,
it's the only
and
thing
that,
we know. It's the only
and
thing
that's
we're familiar with. And so leaving that system, it puts us in a state of uncertainty. Whatever you say, we can talk to people as much as we want, and we do, and we will, about the potential benefits of a whole new world, a whole new kind of lifestyle, a whole new kind of human family that we can begin to live, to experience. And yet it'll be a scary transition. There'll be something because we're not familiar with it. And also about these politicians, you said, it's this has to do with it, right? The people who sold candles didn't invent the light bulb. The people who are now engaged in saving the current system and perpetuating their whatever it is, even if they're just in unable, they're in those positions, they're not going to be able to all of a sudden envision what we can actually do here. It's going to take some massive awakening from below, so to speak. It's going to take those people who are anxious, who the surveys say are anxious in thinking, are actually the greatest opportunity that we have right now for positive change. Um,
Just a minute.
yeah,
Out to launch productions on YouTube. Yes, we see all your questions. I see, is the book of Zohar considered authentic Kabbalah? Yes, 100%. Kabbalah or Judaism come first. Kabbalah did. We have this show here is, and we can get to all these questions. What we're doing on this show is talking about the transition that humanity is going through the lens. Asaf and I are both in the wisdom of Kabbalah with our teacher, from a lineage of Kabbalists, for many, many years. And we are talking about life because the wisdom of Kabbalah is not, as we said, some kind of religion or some kind of mysticism. We're talking about the world that we are in because we who are alive are the ones who are able to make this happen. This is where we realize, this is where we attain the spirituality when we're alive. Here, we there's nothing. Anyway, the point is, we can get to all this, and we have a free um, kind of self-study course where you get to be in with other students going through it, and there's forums, and Bright, who is with us, will be able to post on there if you want to check that stuff out. So we can get to all of those things, but we want to spend our time here specifically doing, and maybe Asaf at some point we can do something like that where we get into the wisdom of Kabbalah more, but is
maybe
to,
we can do like a blitz at the end for all general questions as well. That's
if
another
it's
option
if
if we have the
everybody else
time.
wants
Yeah.
that. But in general, what's happening here is to take all, we're not talking about the sphirot and the partsufim and which angel and which, lights and which vessels. We're talking here specifically about what that means for us. What that means for us is everything came, everything, all the simple light that we all, everything originated from, came down, descended through these worlds, concealed until we're here. And now we're developing, and this develop back up to this unity, but we're developing towards this unity as unique, because if Need to Know and P. Marlin and Patricia and Mike and Out to Launch and everybody else and David Mancini and Jacqueline and everybody here were all united like we were in the simple light, there would be no such thing as these names. There would be no such thing as these places, because we would all just be one with no beginning, no end, and no borders, no nothing. Everything would just be like a spark inside the sun. And so here, through the hatred, through the divisions, through the black people, the white people, the red people, the yellow people, through all of these divisions, through the male and the female, through all of these different divisions, we've all become unique, very, very separate and unique. And from this, now, when we attain the unity from this complete shattering, when we, not like an animal, we're a plant who lives according to instinct, but we, by acquiring this wisdom of what this force is that is operating us, what our true nature is, and what we're moving towards, then we can feel, because we are, after all, feeling. We're not, this is not something that we're trying to learn a bunch of facts about. We want to feel what it's like to be one with everyone, what it's like to to feel that the whole world loves me and that I'm cared for and all of my needs are met. That's the actualization. That's called the messianic era that you've read about. That's what this is. We're not talking about any kind of ancient characters from some ancient book or something like that. This is the fulfillment of what all of the true books are about. It's happening right now in our lifetimes. and we want to talk about it in the cleanest way, the clearest way, without all kind of references to some guy who lived in a desert at some point. We want to talk about it because all of that in those books is only talking about our inner process.
And let's
Have you
talk about
mesmerized, Asaf, or
no,
you
no, that's with that Kabbalistic context. Let's talk more about feelings then. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about our feelings. Um, there's a reason, and Kabbalah explains the reasons, the driving forces behind what we're all feeling now, what we're all going through, what nature is doing with us, and what we are supposed to do with it, and everything that we are feeling. Essentially, we're coming to a very interesting state, which is like a two it's a double-edged sword, right? Because when people feel all this anxiety and insecurity and uncertainty that we talked about, on the one hand, let's be real, this can get real ugly real fast. this is
World War III,
this is yeah,
everything.
because when people feel insecure, when people feel uncertain, that's when primal instincts take control. That's where the survival instincts take control. When I feel that nothing is safe, the only thing that's familiar for me is myself. So xenophobia, hatred of others, and aversion from anyone else, anyone different, becomes prevalent, becomes stronger. This is the time in history when dictators, rose to power and overthrew regimes and things like that. Because when we are being locked into our own fear and our own uncertainty, we start separating from each other. But here's the thing. Here's the big thing, really. At the end of the day, it's also the time when we have the opportunity, the huge, unparalleled, unprecedented opportunity we have today to find our confidence and our certainty and our security, like Seth said, in a new level of human connection, a spiritual connection, if you will, if you want. Everyone today essentially needs like a warm, loving, motherly kind of hug from humanity. That's what we ultimately crave. It sounds, lovey-dovey, but really think about it. This is ingrained in us from when we are born. You need that, just like a baby needs the sensation of the mother, that without words, without intellect, just soothes and relaxes and tells you it's gonna be fine. It's okay. We're going to a good place. And I don't care how old you are today, where you're from, black, white, or yellow, or red, or left or right, uh, rich or poor. We need that kind of motherly embrace today. And that's why we have such a huge opportunity, because there's a deeper, Seth, I can go on here, so just
Yeah,
stop me.
keep going. I'm looking at
The-
the questions and I see
okay.
people are coming from all. I mean, people are talking about sex education. No, no. Oh, replacing sex education with relationship education, and how do you explain this to different people, and about the 613 commandments and stuff. I think just
Oh,
keep going forward and
yeah.
let's.
No, because if we have a bunch of questions, we have to relate to them, and maybe instead of keeping jamming on this, but I don't know. You say, you know what? Okay, let's take one that just jumped at me. Jacqueline Shimmy says, do you have a way of explaining to someone who doesn't believe in the idea of a creator or a spiritual force where this idea originated in, who created the creator? I'll just say a quick one, Seth, if you want to add to it.
Go
Um,
for it.
we don't believe in anything. Kabbalist Yehuda Ashlag says very clearly, when we say the creator or God in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and when we say nature, we mean the same thing. They are one and the same. The overarching program that we live in, that guides the material universe and everything beyond the material universe, which we just don't sense and don't see. Just like there are forces in physics that we know exist but can't observe them, in that whole program is called, you can call it nature, you can call it the creator, it's the same thing, and that's what we're talking about. So there is no belief required. Um, but we do need to get a feeling of that program, and that takes me back to what we discussed before. That's what we don't have. See, on a we need that motherly embrace from nature, not just from each other. We need to get it from nature itself. If you think about, like thousands of years ago, in ancient times, people were a lot more intimate with nature because we were dependent on nature. We had a sense of the greatness of nature because we were clearly subject to its laws. We had to abide by the laws of weather and how to get our food and the crops that we grew, and so on. We were very much dependent on the forces of nature. We respected nature, and we were therefore a lot more intimately connected with nature, but that was instinctive. And then we evolved for thousands of years to the point where we lost that instinctive connection with nature. We lost that motherly embrace of nature. We lost the conscious search for that search for being embraced by nature. We started thinking about nature just as something we exploit and use and make the best of. And all of a sudden, thousands of years later, right now in the 21st century, we're entering a new reality. Well, all of a sudden, we're threatened by nature again. And we're threatened by the reality that we created with each other. But now we have the opportunity to rebuild that connection, to regain that connection with nature and with each other in a conscious manner. And the whole thing we've been developing for these thousands of years was our conscious choice and our conscious opportunity. And that's
No other
why,
creature has a choice.
yeah.
No shark has a choice whether or not to, no zebra, no sunflower has a choice.
Oh, what do you say, Seth? Questions? Should
There
we?
is a lot going on in these, especially over on YouTube. I think Facebook is kind of in the flow with us more or less. Few people who are a little bit annoyed at what's going on in with the politicians and things like that.
Mm,
Um,
we can understand that.
eh,
We can understand
yeah,
that. Yeah.
Facebook, they're having, it looks like on YouTube, they're having a whole Kabbalah lesson over there. Um,
Okay, we can get in and do some questions on that too. But I do see that we have something very interesting we can do here now. Check
what do you
your
got?
uh, check your WhatsApp, Seth.
Okay. Wow, we talking about our global check here?
Yes.
Okay, so hi, Bright. So if everybody doesn't know or knows, we have an amazing friend named Bright from the UK. He's actually Bright. Remind me which country you're from in Africa because I forgot. Sorry. Um, Bright is a friend who studies with us, and I hope we're going to have him actually come onto the show to speak with us all soon about what's going on in the world. So Bright is there as us with you in the chats, and that's how if you need to get a message to us that we don't see, or if you have a question about something, about one of our guests, or about a book, or about anything. Um, Bright's your man. So Bright just collected this for us, and I want everybody here to understand what's going on. We have friends here from Quebec. So take this in, okay? Quebec, Afghanistan, Vancouver, Angola, Argentina, Russia, Kentucky, London, Mexico, New York, South Carolina, the Ukraine, Israel, Ethiopia, Miami, Los Angeles, Brazil, Bergen, Norway, Uganda, Portugal, Germany, Virginia, Colorado, Ghana, Pittsburgh, Queens, Northampton, Sweden, Colombia, Switzerland, wow, North Carolina, Iowa, Poland, China, Washington, Ohio, San Francisco, Arizona, New
Wow.
Jersey, Turkey, Connecticut, South Africa, Toronto, Sweden, and Ontario. Wow, wow, wow. That is incredible.
There you
That is
go.
incredible. So we
It's
are all
amazes me each
now,
time. Yeah.
yeah, we've all been shattered. Everybody here, we were connected. We've all been shattered. Now we're in all different skin. Your skin looks like that. My skin looks like that. This one's vegetarian. This one's eating meat. This one is Republican. This one's Democrat. We're all shattered and different. The point is not to make us physically, materially the same. We are talking about the integral laws of nature. Nature made you different. Nature made me different from you. Nature made men and women different from each other. Nature made the colors different from each other. And now, and now we reach the end of our material development, and now we connect in our hearts. We connect a network. We talked about it many times here, that all of the mushrooms, the mycelium, are all connected under the soil, and they have this network, like an internet of connection. And the same with trees. Trees are connected in their roots, and they tell each other where the water is and how all that works. And if there's a drought over here, they communicate to each other. And whales can communicate over thousands of miles. Okay, well, we also are part of a network. The difference between us and mushrooms is we don't, they're all doing it from instinct. We need to develop it. And what happens from developing it is that you in Afghanistan, or you in Portugal, or you in North Carolina, then you consciously bring your unique quality to it. When,
And
yeah, and
and COVID is a very unique part of nature's program that is designed to help us do that. Now that again, that may sound, a little weird, or even, how can we say such a good thing about such a bad thing, right? The virus is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's it it paralyzes our current connection and severs our current level of connection, by sending us home, by paralyzing our economies, by shutting down the systems that we were used to connect through. But over time, that paralysis creates consciousness. It makes us think. It makes the uncertainty begets a new level of consciousness. And over time, we are now being given the opportunity to consciously find the new level of confidence, the new level of balance, the new level of certainty on a new level of connection with each other. And that's why this is such a great, in the sense of amazing, and great in the sense of big opportunity that we have right now, right at our
don't
doorstep.
don't want to forget Gary in LA. Hey, Gary, and Belen in Mexico, and Lisa in St.
In St.
Louis. If we
Louis,
missed,
Missouri.
yes.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So out to launch. I see you're going wild over there. Follow the show, man or woman, whoever you are. Follow us in the show here, and we can get to all the questions when we do that. But see what's happening here, because what happens on your first day of suppose you want to play soccer, football, whatever you call it, right? So the first day, or you want to learn a musical instrument, okay? The first thing you do, you sit down, you start learning the scales. Da 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 da. You're just learning just the mechanics, and that's what I see. You're asking about all these mechanics. What do I do this? How do I do this? What should I do with this? But what happens with a great musician, like the best musician? The best musician closes their eyes, and it's an emotional experience. If the greatest musician got up there and just did something mechanical, it's impressive. But when a good musician plays, you can cry. You may jump out of your chair and dance from something from a good musician, because of the emotion inside of it. And at that point, when you experience that emotion, all of the skills and the scales, all of that is contained in there. So we have a unique opportunity if we can feel. That's what we want to do here. If we can begin to feel what's happening, we'll already know what are all those actions we need to do to get there. We'll start to be directed towards those actions. But to start from the actions, when we start to learn the scales and everything, it's because we felt something with music, or our parents felt something with music, and they want to guide us to that. We don't just start, banging on something without understanding what the goal is. The goal here, the feeling of what that goal is what's going to direct all of these actions with our hands and our feet. So let's try and live into what is happening here. What is this transition we're in? And then it starts to become clear, right? What does it mean? How can you believe? Anyone is free to have any beliefs they want, but I can't have a I don't have any blind faith in just some just nothingness, right? If I know somebody who's attained something or I see something, I can believe them because, like, for example, I see a musician. I don't know how he played that guitar solo, but I believe he knows, I can believe that. I want to follow that path. But just to have some belief out of nowhere about something that has no place here for us. We're not those ancient people who, need food and it rained. So yeah, but I'm doing something to try and make it rain again. We're not
That
we're
almost
not
worked. Almost worked, man.
we're, that's not what we're doing. We discovered through the wisdom of Kabbalah what the laws are. And it's very pragmatic and very clear, and it's beyond time, space, and motion. Really, the reality is unbelievable. We're trying to speak about it in the most clear way. But what we want to the main thing is to feel. The main thing is to feel that love and that connection. That's not to understand, when I wake up in the morning, how should I pour the water on which hand and what should I do? And if I'm go to church, how to, it's not that's not the goal. It's not our goal, is to understand exactly which action I need to do with my hands. The goal is that all of humanity comes to live and feel like one family in love of one another. That is our goal. And that will, as we start to see what nature's doing, how nature is organizing us now, where nature is bringing us now, then we'll start to understand what are the actions I need to do with my hands and my feet. But to just go out there now according to, I think it should be like this, and my neighbor thinks, that's why we see, look outside. That's the confusion we see right now, because nature made us all different, and everyone is shouting about the way they see the world. And nobody outside yet, not nobody, most people outside it don't understand that our real solution is unity, is in connection above our differences. You want to go back and fix every wrong that every single person did to every single person? It'll take you a million years or more. Never be done.
Seth, we got a question here from Ingrid. She's asking, we can't go back, right? We can't go back to our connection with nature that we once had, like on an instinctive, primal kind of level. So Ingrid, we can't go back to our connection with nature, but we can go forward into our connection with nature. You're exactly right. Back is no longer possible, but forward is possible. And that's what we need to do. The kind of connection we need to regain with nature is a conscious one. It's something that never happened before. And so changing, and that will change, attaining that connection between each other and with each other and with nature, that will change all our orders of human life. But until we start that change, it has to happen simultaneously. We don't exactly know what to change. So going back to what Seth just said, relating to some of the questions now that people are asking, there is a change of consciousness that needs to happen. There is an evolutionary change that needs to happen, and then other changes will follow as well. But it has to happen. The change of consciousness has to happen as well. Um, okay, so
Is
Seth,
there
what do you?
something that you wanted to, yeah, is there something you wanted to accomplish today that we didn't get to yet?
I
Because
think I
we
think
gotta,
there is yeah, I think there is an encouraging, there is a really fascinating and encouraging thing that we can learn uh, from this whole situation that we can even kind of implement right now, right? So in a situation where we are insecure and we that uncertainty and insecurity can lead us to negative behavior towards each other and violence and more division and so on. We also have the opportunity, as we said, but what do we to connect, to find confidence in connecting to each other. But here's the fascinating thing about giving confidence to each other. Human beings have this unique quality where I can give you confidence, you and I can give each other confidence while we both don't have any of it. You know what I mean? Like when
yeah.
we find comfort in sharing our insecurities. Isn't that a weird human trait that no animals have? We if you feel insecure and uncertain and I feel the same, We both in a minus, and then somehow there's a quantum leap where if we want to give each other confidence, we both become plus. That's like the weirdest kind of thing.
Mm. Oh,
And
so beautiful. You're so
nature
awesome.
you know where I take my inspiration from, and it's the same place. It's the same place
My
you do.
music? No, I was kidding.
But that's what nature
Fix
wants
these
us to
lights. I'm
do.
turning red.
It's not me, man. It's something on your end. Yeah, I think now you're yellowy,
And now I'm yellow. Okay.
too yellowy. It's your auto white balance. But that's what nature wants us to do. There's no auto confidence that we're gonna gain from now on. Humanity is going to regain its confidence about life, about the world, and about the economy and the political structure and the virus and everything else when we regain when we consciously work on giving confidence to each other, telling each other, communicating to each other, radiating to each other that we are together in this. We're in the same boat and we all care about each other's well-being. And even though we both don't have that sense of confidence, when we give it to each other, we all will have that. And that's the magical force of nature that exists between us. That's the power of connection that nature wants us to discover. So,
Ingrid on Ingrid
yeah.
on YouTube is asking why don't Kabbalah give any rules like religions? Well, Ingrid,
Mm-hmm.
if you start to study the wisdom of Kabbalah, and you must do it with other people who are doing it, because you discover that your soul is really the connection with the others. We are like one humanity. You'll see there are things that you start to. There's different ways that you begin to behave. Certain things, like Asaf is saying, by increasing the other person's important vision of there's many things that we do, but the reason why you don't see rules like that in the wisdom of Kabbalah is because I can put a gun to your head and tell you to give me your money. I can put a gun to your head and tell me you love me, but there's nothing I can do. I can't make you love me. I can make you do something with your mouth. I can say behave like you love me, cook me dinner like you love me, but I can't make your heart love me from by force,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the wisdom of Kabbalah is the work in the heart. We want to change our hearts. And once we change our hearts, it doesn't matter if you're from Ghana or if you're from Argentina. Your actions and your culture can be your actions and your culture from wherever place you were plopped on earth. But the blanket culture around the world will be one of love, and from that all of the other actions will be expressed. We don't have any um, voodoo tricks or some kind of, I shake something 5 times and walk around 15 times in order to somehow change the stars. And no, it's all we learn about perception of reality, and how as I exit myself, because Out to Launch asked, I give money, I help homeless people, and whatever. Does this mean I'm an egoist? Out to Launch, we're all egoists. That's all we are. Every single person is just an egoist. Every single animal, well, you could call it will to receive, it's called in the wisdom of Kabbalah. Every creature just wants to receive. You wouldn't get out of bed if you didn't think there was any benefit. You would stay there. You wouldn't move. You wouldn't scratch your head if you thought that you would feel better if you just left your hand right here. All we are is egoists. We're going to get to a point, though, where that ego is used in the right direction, where we see that the benefit, the real benefit, because what's the problem with the ego? I want something, and as soon as I get it, right, I want a car. As soon as I get it, the pleasure to having it starts to decrease. Or I want food. As soon as I get it, the pleasure that I get from eating it, each bite, the pleasure gets less and less. That's the problem with the ego. He can't be fulfilled. But once through this wisdom, through understanding what's happening very naturally, how we're all connected, and how we start to use the ego to fill the others, all of a sudden the whole world like flips. everything flips, and it seems like, what were we fighting about before? I don't understand. I'm taking care of you and you're taking care of me, and all of a sudden I go outside and everybody's friendly, and now they were behaving like this, that I don't even need this mask because the virus is like the other trillion viruses. Actually, Google it. Look how many viruses are in your body. Everybody should Google that when the show is over. Now this corona is not even affecting me anymore. Now that I've changed, that I only want to do good to you. Before, I just wanted to exploit you, even if I didn't realize it. And that's why the virus made me go. That's why nature, dressed as the virus, the integral laws of nature, made me go home, made me separate from you, made me cover from you so I can't hurt you. And now that I realized that consciously, now that I realized that I was coming close to you only to exploit you, and now that I changed, I had a change of heart and I realized I only want to do good for you. Then when I come close to you and I only want to benefit you, I don't, the virus isn't hurting me. I'm healthy.
Enter the great transition. So the great transition is also a very, while it's very global and big and major and colossal, it's also very personal. It's also very intimate, and it's happening in human beings as we speak, even though we're still far from understanding it and knowing exactly what we're going through. But essentially, that's the change that we are undergoing right now. Nature is beautiful, Seth. Nature is she knows what she's doing, you know. Um, and you know, my wife just texted me. Apparently, she's
Are we doing a good job? Did she tell you?
she I don't know, but she says she said she's probably like listening while breastfeeding or something like that. So she said like he used to say like about my son what I said earlier. He said while we went to the new home, he would still say, "I want to go back home." You know,
Mm,
that's an
yeah.
interesting thing. So it's kind of where we're at. It's already happening, you guys. The world, it's there is no going back. We're already in a new place. The new reality is all around us. COVID is the usherer. It's the messenger. It's the, you know, it's the, I don't know, how do you call it? It's nature's messenger, but the reality is already forming. It's already taken shape. What we need to do is just adapt ourselves to it so that we can see the beauty of what's happening, so we can really enjoy the great transition and go on the adventure together. And then we can really get to that point, like Seth said, where when we get into such a balance with each other and with nature, that nature simply won't harm us. We will see that all of its forces are good. All right. We got to wrap, Seth.
We've got
Uh,
to wrap. Everybody, you should know that Bright is here in the most loving way. He's punching us behind the screens to get to every question. Um, but we're at the end of the show today. We'll be back Sunday. Saf, you have
yeah.
another obligation on Sunday, right? So we will still carry on the great transition.
Yeah, I think that maybe Seth, you'll have a friend who will do it with you on Sunday, or
Yeah,
we will
and
do
we'll be
one.
here.
Worst case scenario, we'll do one on Monday if we can't make that happen. So we'll update
Stay tuned. We'll try and be there
on,
Sunday. So
yeah.
every Thursday and Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, we're here. Thank you, everybody from all around the world. We are doing this. We're going through this together. We are going to learn what's going on together. We're going to flow with nature. We're going to move into a good life together, a good life of love and good connections, like one family, all of us together. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon. Lots of love.
Goodbye, everyone. You're welcome to stick around for this song and dance with us. So, catch you later.
Waking up to a new day. We're looking for the sun. one.